Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mean Green Gridiron podcast. I'm your host, Billy Sierra, and I'm joined once again by the CEO of the search firm that will lead the Mean Green on their next head coaching hire search, Carter. Carter, how's it going?
That's right. I will make sure we are tended to and push forward into the new regime, new era. Um, I have donated $17 to the cause. Anybody else wants to chip in, feel free. It's been a day. A lot has happened in like 3 hours. It's been a wild afternoon. I don't know. I told you pre-show that I've been at work all afternoon, so we're recording at night on Tuesday. Um, a lot has happened since about 4 p.m. today, so we got a lot to cover.
Yeah, we do. And obviously, kind of the news that we're hinting at, without quite saying yet, is Eric Morris, head coach, heading to be the head coach at the Oklahoma State Cowboys, for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. A move that we kind of saw coming a little bit. That we felt like we knew that this was a big job opening coaching carousel season. There wasn't, last year not a ton of schools opened up their coaching, vacancy, had head coach vacancies last year. A lot of that was NIL stuff, NIL uncertainty with the revenue share impending, and other various reasons of athletic departments maybe not fully having the picture of kind of financially what direction they were going to go. So as a result, you saw a lot of schools maybe hold onto their money and say, we're not going to pay the buyout just yet. Whereas this year, the floodgates open up, and we started seeing uh, coaching jobs open up early this season, and continue throughout this college football season. So there were going to be a surplus of openings, and there was going to be a shortage of quality candidates on that note. So there was a high likelihood that Morris, especially with having a golden ticket like Drew Mestamaker probably coming with him,
Mm-hmm.
that was going to be a lot to overcome for North Texas. We also heard the news about him being offered an extension, but never news of him signing it, and that was that was troubling. That we never heard him sign it, and for good reason. I don't think he didn't want to hamstring a school that he was going to by making them pay his buyout on top of his salary. So like I said, it made sense, but it didn't sting any less. The best season and really in school history, and definitely in decades, a chance to play for a college football playoff, and you don't even get to you lose your coach before senior day. So yeah, what are some of your thoughts, Carter, as you kind of digest this news?
There's you mentioned it in the pre-show, kind of going through the 5 stages of grief. There's a little bit of everything in there. There's some denial. There's some anger. There's some acceptance. I don't know what the other two are, but whatever there are, they're in the mix. Um, yeah, you kind of touched on it. There was always the assurance that this was pretty much a done deal at some point, as well as the season had gone. Uh, you had a feeling he was gonna take a good offer with all these openings. I think it's been a wild ride considering last year we were not really sure what his future held here, and
Yeah,
he stumbles into you know possibly the greatest quarterback this school's ever had, and now look where we are. He's accepting a job at Oklahoma State. So um, I wanted to say I was happy for him, and I probably was for about 2 hours today until I saw that he's sending out offers and talking to
yeah,
recruits 3 days before a game. I don't really know if we want to dig too deep into that hole right now, but I don't know. There's a little bit of bad bad seated resentment there. It just it feels weird, like contextually speaking, that we're gonna have a coach. I mean, North Texas is not going to win the college football playoff. They're not gonna make a run that deep. But hypothetically speaking, your team could still play 7 more games. You're talking about a regular season game against Temple, conference championship, and 6 games. Sorry, 6 games.
Yeah.
Um, Temple, Tulane, and 4 playoff games. You have 6 possible games left as a head coach here, and I like you're already 1 foot out the door. I mean, I know he has to get on the ground running with Oklahoma State, but it's weird. I don't like at this point. I feel like if he's gonna go, just go, because the hard truth is that he was gonna have to accept an offer pretty much as fast as possible here within the last couple of weeks of the regular season. If he was going to take the Arkansas job, Oklahoma State, I don't really know off the top of my head some other what he was linked to, but I'm sure there were others. Cal, whoever, whatever job he was going to take, he would have had to take it somewhere around this time.
Yeah.
But it gets leaked 3 days before the last game of the regular season, and there's people on Twitter from Oklahoma State's camp saying that like he's talking to them, he's talking to recruits, and it's just weird. It's so weird, and it's taken such a deep, hard left turn from where we were, 2 weeks ago, where we were like, okay, we're probably going to lose this guy at some point, but like we're just having fun right now. Well, now it's over, and I worry that I worry that this will create some sort of tension or a nervousness. I don't know the right word to use, but it might distract from the game Friday against Temple. I really hope I'm wrong. We'll get into Temple in a little bit. I don't think Temple's a team that, kind of like we talked about with Rice, I think they're a team that can, give us a little bit of mess, but I don't think they have the athletes to hang with us for 4 quarters. I know they're better than Rice, but it's a game we should win. But I don't know what the attitude with the team is. I don't know what the attitude with coach is with him leaving. I don't know where his mind is at. And I think it's just about as bad of a reality as we could have hoped at the end of the year. We were all kind of like, okay, we're gonna win as much as we can with these guys. But my final take and my final point, and I'll toss it back to you. I don't have any real deep insight or dissection here. I just have to say that it sucks that I've had to watch these games for the last, we'll call it 5 to 6 weeks, where every single time we're on a broadcast, all I hear is enjoy these guys, they're going to be gone. Enjoy these guys, this North Texas team, who knows what they're going to look like next year. Right. And I did my very best to, subside it and just enjoy the season. And now that has come to fruition, and it's just kind of, it just sucks. It just sucks. There's no real way to put lipstick on a pig here. It just sucks.
Yeah, it does. And I think one of the things that I've tried to do in the last week or two is try and, put myself in the mindset of Eric Morris and try and in order to see like, how is this likely going to go down? How is this likely going to play out timing wise and all of that? And the thing I kept coming back to with Morris is Drew Mestemaker, and not just Drew Mestemaker, but how good he is getting, how fast he's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this thought that if Eric Morris chosen to stay one more year and said, hey, all right, I'll stay one more year, Drew Messemaker will be a sophomore, and then if I want to leave after that, I can still bring him with me, and he'll still be a junior. The more I've looked into it, it's not crazy to me to think that Drew Mestemaker by the end of next season is just going to already have the draft profile where he can't stay in college anymore, where it's like,
yeah,
Daniel Jeremiah or whoever, draft board, like he's like a consensus top 3 quarterback, and he's like, sorry coach, I'm gonna go be a top 10 pick. I'm gonna go. I just had 2 amazing college football seasons, and all the talking heads are projecting me as a consensus top 2 or 3 quarterback in the draft, and I'm gonna go top 10, and I can't pass that up. And imagine that scenario for Eric Morris had he stayed one more year and Drew Messamaker just kept taking off at the trajectory that he's been on the last year. Who's to say that he doesn't just go to the draft? He'll be draft eligible next year as a third year guy, redshirt sophomore. What if
Hmm.
he leaves? What if he declares for the draft after next season, and then Eric Morris, he doesn't have that golden ticket anymore. He
Yeah.
can't dangle that cherry to schools that want him and say, hey, I'm bringing Drew Messamaker with me. Um, so I think from that standpoint, I was thinking, shoot, like I think the time for Morris is now to bring Drew Messamaker with him, have that appeal, and just take the opportunity. I really do think that factored in, and I like I said, Drew Messamaker, his rise has been so fast and so meteoric that like I said, it's undeniable. I said it earlier in the year as like a hot take that I thought he was going to be a future first round pick. Like he's he is beyond on the trajectory to be that right now. I had like a stat thing of all the G5 quarterbacks who've been drafted in the first round this century, and what their freshman seasons looked like. He's surpassed every single one of them. Ben Roethlisberger, Alex Smith, Carson Wentz, you name it. Every one of them, he's far surpassed the numbers that they put up as freshmen. So he's kind of in a league of his own there. All that to say, it makes sense, as much as it sucks for us to admit. It makes sense that this would be the year Morris chooses to take that leap, and it doesn't make it sting any less. And the timing just sucks. Like you said, it's a weird feeling. Like, I'm completely with you. I think we beat Temple, not much of a problem necessarily. I don't think, like you said, I don't think they can hang with us for 4 quarters. Um, as long as everybody shows up and play football, I think we beat them. But what I'm really concerned about now is that I think this really hurts our college football playoff chances, because now Tulane, going at Tulane in the conference championship game, that's going to be a really hard game regardless. And
Hmm.
now you got a coach who's recruiting for Oklahoma State. You've got players who know that they're lining up their NIL deals with Oklahoma State. Um, and you got other guys on the roster who are like trying to figure out, like, should I enter the portal? Like, is coach going to bring me with him? Am I going to have to find another opportunity? Am I going to stick it out? Like, that's just the human nature of the situation. Like, there are going to be distracted players, and Tulane at Tulane is not a game that you can have divided attention and sleepwalk through a game.
Nope.
And if you lose that game, then you play in some bowl game, and if you're not playing in the college football playoff, Morris isn't coaching that game, and Drew Messamaker's not playing, and Hawkins isn't playing. So so then you could end up finishing 11-3 after an 11-1 season, with a bowl loss because none of your studs played in that bowl game, and you sleptwalk through a conference championship appearance, which by the way, North Texas still has not won their conference in 2004, with a prime chance to do that this year. And yeah, it just sucks. This completely derails the everything that you had, all the momentum you had, and you hope that you know Morris and Mestamaker, that you hope that they can be consummate professionals like Grant McCaslin was a couple years ago, winning the NIT.
Hmm.
Coached the last 2 games after it was already announced he was going to Texas Tech. That is the ideal scenario, but can Morris and these guys, can they do that? I don't know. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. Is the McCaslin situation? I just I again, it's inevitable that the timing of this was when it was going to be. I don't want to. I don't want to hold it against Morris. I think Oklahoma State is a great job for him. I don't think it's a job where he needs to succeed immediately. But like you said, it's not just us talking about Messmaker being an NFL prospect. Like there's people from like Pro Football Focus and like analysts and podcast. Like there's people who are
Yeah.
talking about this kid being an NFL player. And so, yeah, it is completely reasonable to believe that a year from now his trajectory has gone up so much that it's like, okay, this guy's pretty much close to per ready. Now, in all likelihood, I think he'll probably play 2 more years of college ball. I
Yeah.
don't I don't think he'll be in the 27 NFL draft, but it is possible. And I just you can also look at the defensive coordinator hire from, you know, he's 1 for 2 on that. First one didn't go so well. Second one, good. We don't know if Cassidy's going to Oklahoma State yet. Some of us might, but they're not on this podcast. But I don't know. There's some weird outliers there where it's like I don't know that it's a home run hire for Oklahoma State, but they needed a guy. They were one of the programs where you're talking about like I guess the tier 1 circle of programs who need a guy badly. Like they need to get the hire right, and they need to get the hire right now. Arkansas, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech was in that bubble until a couple weeks ago. Penn State's in that bubble right now. Like there are just some schools that really, really needed to get this done fast. So I don't blame him for taking the opportunity. It's a great job for him where like even if Mestamaker needs a couple years, or even if, the first year defense or whatever it is, even if he doesn't win right off the bat, I think it's going to end up being a really good job for him. I don't blame him for taking it, but the timing just couldn't be worse. And it's not his fault that the timing sucks, but it still sucks. And I think there's a lot of there have been some wild takes today, and I'm not here to chew anybody out, but there have been some really negative reactions to this, and I think they're kind of valid to an extent. Where like this is as good as it's been ever to cheer for this football team, and I don't, we can talk about the future here next, but I think you and I are probably more on the optimistic side of things, just because you can look at the momentum we've built this year and how much of a window we've opened by proving, hey, you can win here. You can develop a successful quarterback here. You can have one of the nation's top rushers here. And like, yeah, it's baby steps. I mean, neither Messmaker or Hawkins are getting like Davey O'Brien or whatever the running back award.
Doak Walker.
Doak Walker, yeah. Neither of them are getting award hype for that. Neither of them are on the awards list, but they're still two of the most productive players at their positions in the country, and most college football fans who are like really avid college football fans know who they are at this point. So, getting our goal is to get North Texas to a point where it's not a school in the situation we're in now, where it's like, oh, well, we are automatically sure that no matter what success we have, it will get poached. You got to build that up, and you're kind of fighting. You're throwing fire into the wind in a certain aspect of how unpredictable and how unfair college football is right now.
Yeah.
You got to play the cards you're dealt. And I think for where we're sitting at this moment in time, it sucks that we got this deal, this hand of cards right now at this moment. But I do think that there is, as negative as the reaction has been, as how unhappy and unpleased some people are by this, I think we're in a position to capitalize off of what we did this year, rather than, oh, it's all down the drain. I don't think it's down the drain. And I guess we could kind of segue into this if you want, but just going forward, I like I said, I think you and I are both kind of in the same boat. I don't want to speak for you, but like I'm optimistic that we have a green upward trajectory on the stock market, and you can buy stock in North Texas. It's not a, well, it's over. I think it's changing. It's on to the next thing. And it sucks that it has to happen this way, but I'm optimistic. I think we're going to be okay. I think we'll make good hires. I think we'll get good guys in here, and I think we've set the expectation of, okay, we proved that you can win at North Texas. Now we got to prove that you can do it over time, and that's the next step.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we saw in the last week, we heard, Vito had an article out saying that, there was some dinner with some big money donors trying to kind of lay a path forward for retaining Morris and pledging NIL commitments. We also saw, Mattress Mac, Jim McInvale at the in the locker room with talking to the team before the Rice game. He's notorious big money donor for sports teams, but in particular North Texas because he used to play at North Texas, play football back in like the 60s or 70s, and he was a donor kind of back in the early 2000s who sort of kind of fell out with the program and previous athletic department. And he's a guy who, if he were back in the fold helping being a donor to the program, that you could see some kind of increased commitment level or competitiveness in the NIL market that we haven't had so far since that became a thing. But regardless, I do hope that the donors, that their commitments weren't fully contingent on Morris staying. I hope that they felt like, all right, we do want to keep this thing going, and we do want to try and get someone who can keep it going instead of just saying, "Ah, he's gone. Never mind. I'm gonna keep my money in my bank." But
Yeah.
I do think that this hire, it could potentially be a bigger pool of candidates, whereas this is the third North Texas coaching hire that I've been a fan during. The first one was when they hired Luttrell after McCarney got fired. The second one was obviously when they hired Morris after they fired Luttrell, and then now this is number three. And in all three instances, you've had the same kind of profile of coaches. You basically had the hotshot young offensive coordinator. You're seeing names like Garrett Riley and Kendall Briles and Mac Leftwich at Texas Tech. That's pretty common kind of head coaching profile that you see linked to North Texas early on. And then you've also got the coaches who have kind of fallen from grace, who maybe were really good G5 coaches and went P4 and didn't quite cut it. You've seen guys get mentioned. Billy Napier is kind of one there who was at practice last week. I'm sure there were conversations had at least saying, hey, if this opens up, would you be interested in throwing your hat in the ring kind of thing? I'm sure that conversation was had. I don't know how in depth it was, but my guess is it was at least posed. But and then the last coach that you'll see typically is the FCS or Division II, even like the lower level coach trying to promote him up. And so you're seeing those candidates, the Tarleton State coach, the Abilene Christian coach. So you're seeing all those different flavors of coaches that you could get. But what I'm interested to see is with hopefully more money committed to the football program now, do you see another G5 coach? Because that's something that we've never had is to say,
Yeah.
hey, can we bring a successful G5 coach to come be a coach at North Texas? Because in the past, it was like, well, why would a G5 coach come to North Texas? That's just a lateral move. But do you have the money now to lure that guy away and the profile to say, hey, you can come be a top 25 college football playoff contender here, not just a, 7, 8, 9 win team at, whatever school, whatever G5, Conference USA or Sun Belt level school. I think that's where I would hope that the team can, or that the athletic department can lure those type of guys at least to interview them and have them throw their hats in the ring. So what are some of the kind of candidates that you're looking at, or that whether it's a specific coach's name or a type of coach, what are you kind of looking at here with this hire?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have not had a lot of time to process all this. It's been a very fast afternoon for me. The little thinking I have done about this whole mess,
You got to
uh,
pick it right.
I,
Whoever
I
Carter, the next name you say, that has to be
I
it,
am
or
the
else,
CEO. I have to get
yeah,
this right. Um, I'm really torn. I mean, I would like to continue the trend. I think it's a very healthy thing to do in hiring another Eric Morris or another G5 35-year-old coach who's got a good track record. Mac Leftwich is a name that's been kind of tossed around a little bit. He was with Eric Morris at Incarnate Word. He's the offensive coordinator at Tech now. Good resume. Someone like him, again, someone where you're just kind of looking like, okay, this guy, whatever he touches turns to gold. I know that's not always a guarantee. Not everybody's Nick Saban, but like you're looking at these young guys that you want in charge of. They call them program builders. You want that kind of guy. The problem is, I think in a younger guy, you're probably gambling on tenure, and we got 3 years out of Eric Morris. That's not a really long head coaching tenure.
Yeah.
So, are you guaranteeing that if a Mac Leftwich comes along, or someone like him, I'm using him as an example, not a specific guy, but uh, if someone like him comes along, are you guaranteeing to yourself that he's going to be here another 4 years, 5 years? Like, it's a big swing, and I'm not sure. I know it's a healthy thing to do is to get a young culture guy in here. You want someone who kids can relate to. You want someone with good coaching ties. I know Morris was part of the Mike Leach tree, which is so expansive throughout college football. And at this point, I mean, you can hire pretty much anyone off the Mike Leach tree, and I'll be happy.
You heard it
But
here, Seth Luttrell.
Seth Luttrell coming home. I am a believer in second chances, if nothing else. But then you can turn to a guy like you said, Billy Napier, who maybe someone who has success at the G5 level, G6, whatever. Maybe not so much, in the spotlight jobs. I know he specifically had a big role at Florida, but there's two sides of the coin here. I think you can go young and trending upwards, or you can go proven commodity. That's really about it. And there's not a whole lot to choose from. I know Napier's kind of been floated around as like a top of the list kind of guy. I know he was here at practice last week, like you said, and no idea what that conversation was, but I'm sure there was something about the North Texas head coaching job being discussed. I think his resume is pretty solid, and I'd be totally fine with a guy like that. But I have not had enough time to sit down and decide which of the two I'm. Again, I'm not talking about Billy Napier and Mac Leftwich specifically. I'm talking about what they represent. The young up and coming coach who you're not totally sure what they can do as a head coach at a D1 program yet, but you're handing them the reins and you're hoping that they'll stick around for a little while and build something successful. Or you can go with the not so successful spotlight coach who maybe has some more tenure, but has proven they can get it done in the past. So I think there's pros and cons to both. As far as Eric Morris goes, I think you can look at it contextually and say, okay, if I put myself in a Oklahoma State Cowboys fan shoes, I'm obviously very excited about getting Drew Messmaker and Caleb Hawkins, who are both, I would say, pretty much locks to go with Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. That's exciting. And you look at the offense and you're like, okay, great. But you also look at the resume. We kind of talked about it at points this year. North Texas just does not have a super impressive resume. And I know we've spent all year being excited about the playoffs and about our resume versus this person and this person. Like, this team hasn't beat a 500 whatever. I don't know that Eric Morris has that prestigious of a resume where if I'm hiring someone like him at a bigger school, I'm like, ooh, that's a real home run of a hire. So if you're trying to build like the best long-term success for a coach like him, like if you hire another Eric Morris, ideally you want that guy to be here 5 to 6 years and establish a sustained success that, like Billy Napier, to use that as an example, had 3 straight 10-win seasons, including one during COVID, which is really impressive. Like, he had a really, really impressive tenure at Louisiana and won a couple bowl games. So
four straight division titles too.
Four straight division titles, couple bowl wins. Those are the kinds of guys where it's like, at that point, if I'm Louisiana, in 2022, whenever he left, I'm like, okay, at least we got this out of him. And like look how good Louisiana's been the last couple of years. I know they've been kind of down this year, but they've maintained that success even with the down year this year.
Mhm.
um, because win win more games over longer periods of time. And I think what sucks for us is that Eric Morris didn't really get a chance to maintain that success. And I'm not blaming him, but it's year 3, and last again, like I said, last year we, as a fan base, we were talking about like we're not really sure how sustainable this guy is long term, and he rips off a 10-11 win season against a relatively weak schedule, and now he's gone. And
Mhm.
so I think if you're going to go the young guy routes, the only way that it's going to come back and look or be looked upon as a successful hire down the line is if we can win for multiple years. We need a guy who can come in here, uh, and I know you mentioned it in our group chat earlier, but like the expectation should be that we can get someone in here who can win 6-7 games next year. Not to do the 6-7 meme, to just move past it. Um, the that should be the expectation. We have a really weak home schedule next year, and you can build off the momentum of what we've done this year. Say, hey, look even past the Drew Messamaker season. Look at our last 3 quarterbacks, and I know they're all Eric Morris guys, but like you can come to North Texas and do this, and it doesn't have to be an Eric Morris system. You have to find someone who has a similar offensive mind and say at a school like North Texas, you can win. It can be done, and I think there should not be a punt next year. I think we really need to get someone in here who can win off the bat. As far as who that is and whether they are a young program builder or an older vet, I don't know. That's where I sit now.
Yeah. And I would even go a step further back with the Latrell era. I think if you're a coach, taking or interviewing for this North Texas job, I think you're looking at it saying, not only did Morris
Oh, did I lose you? There goes Billy. I can't do this twice. There.
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry, I was just saying, I think if you're looking at this job from the outside looking in as a prospective head coach here at North Texas, I think you're looking at it saying, hey, not only did like I said, not only did Eric Morris win big there, but you look back, Seth Littrell had 2 9-win seasons, and Seth
Mm-hmm.
Littrell is not he is not the most favorable name in college football coaching circles right now. I mean, not that he's a bad guy or anything like that, but just the fact that he went to Oklahoma and became their offensive coordinator and had the worst offense that Oklahoma has been probably one of the top 3 or 4 offensive programs in the last 25 years, and they were putrid with Littrell as the coordinator. So
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're a coach looking in and saying, man, that guy won 9 games at North Texas twice, and then once they got a serious coach in there, they were contending for the college football playoff, like that's something that I want to get in on. I want to have an opportunity like that. The name that I've really clung on to, just based on kind of some of the stuff we've heard, is Tyson Helton at Western Kentucky.
Yep.
He's a guy who just wins 8-9 games there every year. He's 48 years old now, so he's not the young hot name like Eric Morris would be at 40. Just turned 40 years old. So Helton's a little older at 48. Um, he's been at Western Kentucky for a long time. He hasn't quite broken through there and pulled off like a ranked college football playoff contender kind of season there. And so I think that he probably won't have the chance to jump P5 right now, or P4. I don't think that I think those schools are kind of looking at him as like a guy who maybe isn't quite that level and hasn't just hasn't quite broken through enough, hasn't broken through the ceiling enough to warrant those looks. And like I said, he's not a young up and coming coach anymore. He's a guy who's been around, so it's not like a potential kind of thing. But his base salary is only 800,000 at Western Kentucky. I think North Texas could offer him a bigger deal, and he's a guy who again could bring guys with him, and I think that's a big thing now. because like we've talked about multiple times, Morris, Mestamaker, Hawkins, he's going to bring guys with him.
Mhm.
And in the past, when we fired Seth Luttrell, we fired him, so he wasn't leaving and bringing guys with him. He was fired, and then from there, a lot of our guys, some of our guys transferred, a lot of our guys stayed. But Morris didn't bring anybody with him from Washington State because, again, it wasn't a situation where the previous coach was poaching the team and bringing them with him to the new place. Morris got to come in and kind of inherit a roster, whereas the next guy is going. You're going to need a guy who can bring some guys with him. A
Mhm.
guy maybe in the past you might say, hey, what about this coach who's was fired last year and was a really good coach before, but took a year off from football? That guy may not have anybody to bring with him, and that could hurt. I think that if you can bring a guy who can bring with him, 10 to 15 players who can kind of serve as sort of a nucleus for what he builds here, and have that continuity of guys who know his system and can teach it to the current guys or the other new transfer portal additions. I think that's what I would prefer. I think that would be the best transition. Like you talked about, next year's a huge opportunity year. You play at Texas State, who's I think a team in the state right now who is really on the same level as you right now, especially like perception wise. If you can beat them in San Marcos, that would be a huge non-conference win. You've
Yep.
got a lot of what should be easier home conference games on your slate. So next year's a big opportunity year too, and you want to keep this thing rolling. You don't want to take a big step back next year. You want to recognize the opportunity year that it is and win games. And so I think Helton is a guy. He's got a redshirt freshman quarterback and a true freshman running back. If you can get those donors who are ready to commit big money to Hawkins, Messmaker, and Morris, maybe Helton and Tisdale and Parrish, the guys at Western Kentucky, maybe those aren't quite the names that our current guys are, but I think it's something that you could keep moving and still be a really good competitive team next year, and you would be able to bring those guys in and give them, pay bumps and prove that, hey, North Texas is a better job than a lot of these other, G5 programs, just because we offer more. We're playing with a little bit bigger budget. Yeah, we're getting poached, but we also can, poach ourselves too. So that would be my preferred path. I think Napier would be a good path as well. He's another offensive minded guy who has had a lot of success. I think there's a chance that he could bring some Florida guys with him because, whoever they hire is probably going to want to bring in a good bunch of his own guys as well. So then that could push some Florida guys out who maybe weren't the best SEC players, but Napier could probably say, hey, this guy wasn't quite an SEC level guy, but I just got done coaching at, Louisiana. I know what the G5 level looks like, and this guy can play at the G5 level. If he can bring in guys like that,
Yeah.
that would be huge. So, I think going forward, there's a big difference there in, having a fired head coach like Luttrell versus having a coach who you're gonna need to replace a lot more of your roster. So, with that, I think is there like what are you kind of looking? What are you gonna kind of be looking for the next few weeks as far as like transfers? Do you think that how many guys do you think Morris is going to bring with them? Do you think a lot of the team is going to transfer that may not be following him and just say, hey, I just want to transfer? Or do you think a lot of the team might stick it out and say, hey, I'll at least stick it out through the spring and spring practice, and then if I don't like it, I'll go, after spring camp's over? What are your thoughts on kind of how the roster will shape out in the next, 6 to 8 months?
You can queue up some Rascal Flats because this is what hurts the most. Is that I posted on Go Mean Green literally about 48 hours ago how I've noticed how much fun this team has had this year and how smiley they all seem. Every
Yeah.
game, it looks like are having so much fun playing football, and winning is awesome. Winning's great, but I'm a fan of teams that have won and don't look like they're having so much fun. I'm a fan of teams that lose a lot and still look like they're having fun. But when you're winning and your team is all smiles and all everything is great, that's the best, man. And the chemistry this year has been so fun to latch onto. You can see it on the field, you can see it on social media. This team loves each other. And I feel
Yeah.
like there are so many deep relationships and friendships on this group that I really do feel like we're about to get cleaned house. I don't have any sort of insider sources or anything to really lead me down that road, but my gut instinct tells me that there are, you know, Drew and Caleb being the headliners. I think both of them have offensive linemen who want to go keep playing with them. I think there are wide receivers who are going to want to keep going and playing with Drew. Totally understand it for the kids. You know, I respect their decision. Um, but I again, kind of going back to what hurts the most is like this team. We all kind of laughed, but there were guys coming from Sam Houston State before the season talking about how they wanted to make the playoffs here and
Yeah.
how they believed this team could make the college football playoff. And it was literally like a little kind of joke headline that even us, our tiny little faction of North Texas fans, were like, "Oh yeah, that's fun, that's cool."
Right.
And now it's like a real possibility. And like again, kind of going back to my prior point, I really hope that however this all got handled, I don't think this is a sudden thing, which is good. Morris leaving, I'm sure this was probably a couple weeks in the making. Um, I hope that the team and the administration handled this in a way that it does not impact the next couple of weeks, um, because I feel like just the mess you are already in of like, okay, well, if we make the playoff, you know, Eric Morris is going to coach us through it. That's another month where he is tied to doing this. I will say, you know, if he's going to be 1 foot out the door and we're contacting Oklahoma State recruits, and I know he has to do it. I'm not like,
Yeah.
I get it, but it still sucks. It's like I said at the beginning, like it's not really necessarily his fault. It sucks, but this is the sport now. This is what we all are. This is how they've bastardized the greatest sport on in America is just
Hmm.
the fact that you can do two jobs at once now. And I don't know the rules. I don't know why it has to be like this, but it is. So whoever we hire, I hope we hire somebody fast, and I hope the whole time that we're enjoying a nice little playoff run and some December football. Uh, I hope our new coach is coming in and getting transfers in here and bringing people in. So whatever happens, you know, I hope these kids realize how special. You know, I know there are some players that follow me on Twitter or have been liking my tweets or keeping an eye on what I have to say about North Texas. I know they check on other people too. So I have no reason to believe they listen to this podcast. But if they do, I hope the players realize how special this season has been for us as fans. I understand the nature of the sport. I understand that, you know, this is just where it's at, and it's the Wild West, as people say. We don't know where it's going, but where college football is right now, this is just the reality. I'm able, at least in this moment, to put it in a glass case and appreciate how fun this season has been. But the rose glasses have been taken off, and it's like, okay, now we have to deal with the stinky
Yeah.
reality. What do we do now? And what we do now, I hope, is get someone in here fast. And you made a good point where, you know, we are going to lose X amount of players, and I do think it's going to be a big amount. So whoever we bring in is going to have to be able to get a big haul of guys to come in here who can compete and play next year. So that may factor in a little bit more as I think about it over the coming days of like who I want, what kind of style of coach I want, and we'll talk about it more kind of with each podcast since it's going to be open for at least a couple of days. But yeah, it. I'm gonna repeat myself like a broken record where I just keep saying it sucks. This sucks, and I wish there was another way. But uh, yeah, man, just my wrap up point on all of this, because I've been rambling for a while. It has been a miserable sports year for me. I've had to watch Luka Doncic get traded from my favorite basketball team. My favorite baseball team is on a playoff list drought after winning a championship, which I'm grateful for. World Series, Texas Rangers a couple years ago. That was fun, but they have kind of sunken into a boring abyss of nothingness. Um, I don't really have an NFL team. I'm a quasi Carolina Panthers fan just because I randomly chose them as my NFL team, and they suck.
No,
Well,
they're not bad.
I know they're kind of hanging in a bad division this year, but they're not a super fun team to watch. We'll leave it at that. And then, my Stars, my beloved Dallas Stars, are just continually getting so close to making the Stanley Cup final and losing every time. Like this North Texas season was a just complete uplifting of joy
You
and
look forward to the game every week.
glee. We literally we made a point of talking about that on the podcast where we're like, we're excited to do these podcasts and excited for these games. And I still am. I'm still excited for Friday. I'm still excited that we get to play for a conference championship probably. And I'm excited that this team could still make the playoffs. But it is under it's under a microscope of Oklahoma State fans, and it's under duress, and it's going to be stressful, and I just wish it wasn't, and it sucks. I've had a bad sports year, and I would really like the one bright spot that I've had this year in sports to not be a wet fart out the door into 2026. So yeah, I trust Mosley. I trust the people who are in charge of things, but get it done soon and just I guess keep winning. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sucks.
for sure. And look, maybe we'll do another episode where we kind of go down the list and say, hey, who are some of the guys you think are going to stay or guys you think are going to leave? But I do think that there are going to be some players who are decent North Texas football players right now, who Eric Morris might say, I'm sorry, I'm not quite comfortable bringing you into Oklahoma State. Like I don't quite see you as a Big 12 player. I think there are a contingent of guys who are good North Texas football players who are not going to be brought on. Frankly, I think there are going to be some guys who he's just going to say, look, I really appreciate having you in North Texas. I don't have a spot for you at Oklahoma State. I'm sorry. A guy who comes to mind, I'll give just one example, but a guy who comes to mind is Mackenzie McGill. I don't think he's going to follow Morris to Oklahoma State. I think Hawkins is going to be brought in, and then from there, you'll probably have a lot more P4 level running backs, whether they're recruits or whether they're transfer guys, or but Mackenzie McGill is a guy who had 10 touchdowns last year as a freshman, had 5 touchdowns this year. He came here out of high school, so this is all he knows. He wasn't a hired gun out of the portal coming to revamp his college football stock. A guy like that you could maybe keep and say, hey, shoot, we've got a guy, a starter caliber guy, for the next coach at this position and that position. I think there could be a group of guys who are kind of in that vein of like, just not quite Big 12 material, but still solid North Texas players. And between that, and if a coach can bring in his own guys with him and kind of, maintain his own continuity in his system, I think you could craft a good North Texas 2026 team. Maybe not a 10-win team, but maybe, threatening it, maybe 8 wins and, pushing 9. It's not out of their own possibility for me. I think that you can keep this thing moving.
Yep.
But what really keeps this thing moving long term is the financial commitment. And I really hope that that's there from the donors that we heard about this week. And I really hope that's there, because even with Morris, he was losing guys, and the financial commitment was upping each year that he was here. We lost Chandler Rogers. What we lost Chandler Rogers for after the 2023 season, we would keep a guy now for that level of money. That level of money wouldn't pull away our quarterback in our current commitment level. So that being said, can you continue to up the NIL funds, up the athletic department budget? Are the fans continuing to buy in? We obviously had a good attendance year. We've obviously got a good projected attendance for this Temple game, especially being the day after Thanksgiving, which is historically not a well attended game, the day or two after Thanksgiving. Can you continue to build those things as a program? Because that is what really allows you, whether it was Morris, whether it's, one of these guys we've mentioned, whoever it is, if they have the budget, I think they can continue winning, no problem. Can they win to this level? I think it's possible. I think it's possible to get back to where this team is if you get the right team, get the right quarterback, get the right coach. I think it's fully possible.
Yeah.
We weren't far off under Luttrell from this kind of season. I think Luttrell started having those flirtatious rumors when we got to 4-0, and I honestly think that was kind of where that train fell off the tracks. But again, I think that it's the possibilities here at North Texas are noted. I think the coaching world is fully aware of what capabilities are here. I think it's the continued fan commitment from the little guys like us, and then hopefully the commitment from the big pockets as well. And yeah, just keep this thing moving. But look, name we haven't mentioned yet is Jared Mosley, and I think he's put together a decent track record so far at North Texas in his time as the AD and as the assistant AD. I think, like I said, I think he's got more resources than he's ever had, and I fully trust him to get this hire right, especially with Carter's help at the search firm.
I think there would be a little bit too much emotion involved if I was to really exercise my board seat here. So I'll leave it to the grown ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. This is a pivotal moment for the program, pivotal moment for the history of the program, and where we want to be and where we want to take ourselves seriously. I am gonna say it again. It just sucks. You got to get to a point in a program where you're not fodder for some bigger school. I don't. I know it's a different sport than it was 20 years ago, but I use this reference a lot. And I grew up watching Baylor football in the 2000s when they were a complete dumpster. I mean, they were the bottom of the Big 12 every single year. I think because I was born in '96. I think between from the time I was born until I was 14, they didn't make a bowl game, and there was they had some long stretch. They went like 10 years without a road conference win. There's they were terrible, and I not to bring up Bryles, but I watched one guy come in and turn that program that was complete, just absolute dog shit into a Big 12 and national contender in about 3 years. Now I know Baylor's got more money than we ever will, and I know there are different politics at play and histories. I get that. I'm not using Baylor and North Texas as a direct comparison, but I've seen teams go from nothing to something. It can happen. And I know that the sport is in this weird place right now where nobody really knows the rules, and we're not really sure what the parameters are going to be going forward for all NIL and transfers, and at some point you're going to allow trades and draft picks. It's a complete mess, and we don't know where it's going to go. All you can do, like I said, is play the cards you're dealt. And like you said, I think Jared Mosley, while he's here, has played his cards well. And I do like how, the in-game environment has changed at the stadium. You can tell that the students are getting more involved. There has been a shot of life injected back into UNT football. And I don't think it is Eric Morris is the shot, and no, where once he's gone, it's gone. I don't think it's that. I think there is kind of like I said, what Eric Morris did this year is prove you can lock in and really prove something here. You can win football games at North Texas. You can be in these marquee kind of games against USF and Navy and Tulane coming up, assuming we handle our business on Friday. And that's not something like you can probably go back and listen to the episodes this year, but there I know at least 2 or 3 times I made note of like this moment or this thing is something I've never experienced as a North Texas fan. Now, I've only been a fan for
Right.
9 years, but I know that's even more true for the 20, 30 year fans who really
Right.
all they have to look back on is 4 straight bowl appearances. So um, just keep pushing going forward, man. I think there's more on the table to eat, and I think we're gonna be okay at the end of the day. It sucks, it stings, but I think we're gonna be all right.
Yeah, and look, Eric Morris, I think we will. It's going to be tough to get rid of this taste in our mouths with how the exit has gone. Not that he did it unprofessionally or anything like that, but just how soured this has made such a great, otherwise super enjoyable sports year or season for them. I think that if he can really lock in here these next 2 weeks, bring us a conference championship, get us in the college football playoff, I think at that point, we can have an amicable split here and say, you know what,
Yeah,
man, you got us our first conference title in 21 years. You got us ranked for the first time in decades. You got us, a 12-win season, which we've never done. You got us a college football playoff appearance. Anything after that, you're like, all right, look,
yep,
this is what we signed you for. This is the kind of season that we wanted. This is the kind of program relevance that we wanted to attain under you. It sucks that it was so short lived, but look, we can't be mad at you. you
yeah,
you held up your end of the bargain, and I think
yep,
that's what I really want to see here these next 2-3 weeks, or 2+ weeks, is go finish the job.
yep.
Don't have your attention split and just completely derail the season that has meant so much to us just because you're already on to your next job. Go
I
finish the job, keep doing what you've been doing, and yeah, make it a good taste to end this thing.
I could not agree more. We could I if you're looking back at the end of the year, where American Conference champs were 12-1, and you call it a respectable loss. You can go get your butt kicked by Notre Dame. I don't care.
Sure.
Just getting into the playoff and getting the hardware of a conference championship, just putting a trophy in the trophy case that we don't have any, and then an 11-win season. Yep, I'm totally on board. At that point, it's like, yep, go do you've earned it. Go
Right.
on to the glories of Stillwater and have fun in heaven.
Yeah.
But it'll be completely amicable at that point for me. I totally agree. Um, yeah, just do the job. This is all I want, and we're never gonna get to experience this again, maybe. So just you know, I hope I'm wrong. We spent the last hour kind of hoping that maybe we do get to experience this again, but as far as we know, we're also living in like this just happened today. We're recording this 6 7 hours after the news dropped, and I mean you and I are both a little on edge about it. The fans are on edge about it, but
Yeah.
you can ease a lot of tension and do yourself a lot of good PR with UNT fans just by going out and taking care of business. You win if we do one of our normal kind of 55-23 type scores Friday. No one will care that you tweeted a OSU recruit or called an
Yeah.
OSU recruit today. No one will care. Just go win. So
Yep.
yeah.
For sure. All right. And with that, thanks for listening. And whatever whatever emotions you're going through, they are valid. I'm here to validate your opinions. I'm your
So
therapist. I'm your mean green therapist.
you are a great doctor. Uh, I do have to ask: Are we going to preview Temple? Are we going to do a preview pod, or do we just kind of rolling with the punches into week
Which
14?
how about we'll do score predictions. How about that?
Okay, you go first.
All right. My score prediction for this game is going to be 45-21. I think that uh, I think we take care of business. I think offensively we're too much. One thing about Temple is they don't have a super explosive offense. They have an offense that protects the ball well. Quarterback has thrown 1 or 2 picks all year, but they don't have the explosive playmaking, and I think that is going to make it hard for them to keep up with us. And then on the flip side, I know we just got done talking about it, and I hate to bring it back up, but I do think that you might see a little bit of, calling off the dogs or saying, "Hey, w- Drew Messamaker, you're good, man. We're gonna sit you earlier than we would have, a week ago, and maybe let Poffenbarger get some run on senior day or
Give him
whatever."
a
I
curtain
do
call.
think that there is some of that reality now, at least in a game where it's the score is decided and you're not trying to run up the score to make yourself look better as a candidate. Now that that's out the window, I think you could see, like I said, Messamaker maybe come out a little earlier than he has in the past, and just not put the pedal to the metal the way we've been scoring, these fourth quarter touchdowns against, Charlotte and UTSA and last week against Rice. So, like I said, that's why I'm going to go 45-21.
Uh, I would very much like a curtain call for Drew and Caleb. Uh, do I go the pessimist route? I don't want Miles to keep yelling at me. I think I Mike. My gut tells me that I think that as long as this has been in the works, the team has probably been privy to it. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be too much of a distraction. I would hope that the energy is there to finish the job that some of these guys, pretty much all these guys, hopefully, came here to do. Um, there's going to be a lot of people watching this game, a lot of Oklahoma State fans. There probably will be, I assume there'd probably be a couple of Oklahoma State fans at the game. Um, which, you know what, I'll even welcome y'all with open arms. You just be nice, be cool. It's tender, it still hurts. All that said, I think maybe there's a little bit of weird energy. We get over it. I'm gonna go 30-17. North Texas beats Temple on Friday.
Okay. Well, yeah. With that, thanks for listening, and hope that we can have a good, enjoyable game Friday. Not thinking about too much, just watching the boys play football again. And thanks for listening. Go Mean Green.
If you're driving to families, don't make any stupid decisions. Your family is more important than this tiny little school. Just have some wine, have some pie, enjoy the holidays. Go Mean Green.
You'd be getting booed out of the group chat for that one.
I don't care. I don't care. Half the group chat hates me anyways. It's fine.
That's not true, but only Miles in temporarily.
And Ryan.
All right. Thanks everybody. Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.